Cultural and natural heritage of the Nizin primeval forest. Nizinska primeval forest is one of the largest, extensive forest complexes in Poland. The area of the Nizin primeval forest is approximately 1,050 square kilometers. In 1988, the Nizin Forest Landscape Park was established in the forest. Professor Witold Slawiński. Its seat is Suprasel. There are 21 reserves in the nature park. A characteristic feature of the Nizin primeval forest is the fact that monuments of nature and monuments of material culture are placed next to each other. In the Nizin forest, the influence of many cultures, religions and nationalities is concentrated. The forest is therefore interspersed with historic cities, towns, villages and settlements. The Nizin primeval forest is not only nature, it is an area with an interesting history and rich culture. Cultural heritage of the Nizin forest. The first traces of settlement from the late Paleolithic period document primitive, flint tools found at archaeological sites. In the area of Suprasel, evidence of the presence of the so-called corded ware, 2800–2200 BC. The flint mine complex dates back to the Bronze Age, traces of which can be found in the forest area by the Przemianka stream. The entire period of the Middle Ages was a settlement expansion developing on the Polish-Lithuanian border. The Suprasel River, formerly Spryzasla, was for a long time the border between Lithuania and Mazovia. The period of the reign of the Jagiellonians was associated with the intensification of settlement and the emergence of larger towns as local centers of social, religious and political life. An important period in the history of the Nizin forest is the reign of Zygmunt August, the foundation of the city of Nizin and the administrative reforms carried out by Queen Bona. Measuring the spear, 3-field, new spatial layout of the village, division of the forest into the backwoods. From that period dates back to a more organized system of exploitation of the natural resources of the Nizin primeval forest, which manifested itself in the creation of numerous tar factories, sawmills, deforestation of river valleys and expansion of agricultural land. There are two national uprisings in the history of the Nizin forest, the November Uprising in 1830 and the January Uprising in 1863. During World War I and II, significant areas of the forest were devastated by forestry, which was facilitated by the network of narrow-gauge railways built at that time. The rich history of the area is confirmed by the cultural and national mosaic. After the wars in the 17th century, which decimated the local population, Tatars were settled in the northeastern outskirts of the forest, whose current cultural and religious centers, mosques, are located in Kruzyniany and Bowniki. During World War II, elements of Jewish and evangelical culture were largely destroyed. Currently, the Nizinska forest is an area where the followers of Catholicism, Orthodoxy and Islam coexist. Natural heritage of the Nizin primeval forest. The peculiarity of the Nizin primeval forest is the picturesque, varied topography, shaped around 180 to 160,000 years ago by a melting glacier. Rapidly flowing waters created valleys, and melting basins were formed where the dead ice blocks disappeared. Water flowing down from the glacier deposited a lot of sand in the form of outwash fields. Today, the Nizinska primeval forest is the only area in Central Europe similar in many respects, structural, geobotanical or zoogeographic, to the southwestern taiga. the varied topography and the related significant microclimatic, hydrological and soil differences, occurring even in small areas, are conducive to the development of a large number of plant communities. 67% of the forest is covered by deciduous forests with pine and spruce. 29% are deciduous forests with oak, maple, birch, hornbeam, linden and aspen. And 4% are moist forests with black alder and common ash. The flora of the Nizin Forest Landscape Park consists of about 840 species of plants, including 26 species of ferns, which accounts about 38% of the entire vascular flora of Poland. There are 155 species of birds and reptiles in the park. Among them are rare white-tailed eagles, corncrakes, kingfishers, vipers, baskets and dormice. This proves the high naturalness of the environment. Eighteen species of mammals live in the Nizin forest. The forest is an important area in the national lynx population. However, the biggest predator of the Nizin forest is a wolf. They live in groups family, packs, usually consisting of a couple parental and young. European bison occurring in the Nizin primeval forest are the largest European mammals. The forest herd, currently numbering approximately 60 individuals living in the wild in Poland. A mammal, which already for good he made his home in the Nizin primeval forest. There is a European beaver. The ornament is a red deer with its unique, massive and strong antlers. It definitely stands out among the domestic representatives of the species. Permanent inhabitants of forests there are also elk and wild boar, as well as representatives of mustelids, pine marten, weasel, ermine, less often, badger. You can find otters along mid-forest rivers. There are 11 municipalities in the Nizin forest, whose monuments, history, culture and nature are briefly presented in the further part of the presentation. These are Supracel, Grodek, Krinki, Nizin, Janov, Sokolka, Czarna Białostocka, Dobrzyniewo Duz, Wasilkow, Michałowo, Sudziłowo. Supracel is called the Pearl of Podlasie. Today, it is a health resort with a historic Orthodox male monastery and the Museum of Icons. The town lively cherishes the relics of the Zakat family related to the development of the textile industry in the 19th century. Wilhelm Frederick Zakat brought families of weavers, building them 300 houses, thus deciding about the spatial layout of the city that has survived to this day. Today, in the city of Supracel with over 500 years of tradition, there are unique monuments. In the Supracell commune there are 7 nature reserves, 5 of the forest type, and these are Budzisk, Jarloka, Krasne, Przemień Góry, Lasy-Liczańskie, Suroskoło and partly Warownicze. The uniqueness of the Nizin forest and Supracell is due to the presence in this area of a specific ecotype of Scots pine called Supracell or mast pine. They are currently the most beautiful and magnificent specimens of this tree species in the country and perhaps in Europe. Grodzic, the first castle, was built here in the 12th–13th centuries. Before 1483, these lands were given to Iwan Chodkiewicz, and his son, Alexander, lived here, making Grodzic his main residence. Alexander Chodkiewicz also brought monks from Kiev here, who in 1500 moved to a different, more secluded place, thus giving rise to the city of Supracell. In the 16th century, Grodzic received city rights, becoming an important economic and administrative center. There are 2 nature reserves in the commune. Chomontauszczyzna, create to protect the fragment forest with a high degree of naturalness, sheltering a free-living herd of bison. And a fragment of the Lasy-Liczańskie forest, where it is implemented protection of mid-forest meadows, alders and hornbeam forests, valleys, streams covered with riparian forests and vegetation. The beginning of Krynik dates back to 1429, when it is in the place of today's city a prince's court was built, in which in 1430 a meeting between Władysław Jagiello and the Grand Duke of Lithuania Zygmunt Kieszczatowicz was organized. In 1509, Krynki received the coat of arms given by Zygmunt Stary, who in 1522 also founded a church in Krynki. According to the available data, Krynki received city rights in 1569, they were taken back in 1950 and was broadcast again in early 2009. Monuments in Krynki. Kruzyniany, the family nest of Podlasie Tatars, settled by Jan III Sobieski from over 300 years ago. Monuments in Kruzyniany are village layout, Tatar mob, wooden from the end of the 18th century, one of the 2 oldest in Poland, Muslim cemetery from the second half of the 17th century, unique in the country. Nyzyn is one of the oldest cities in the Podlaskie voivodeship. The first mentions of Nyzyn in documents come from 1358. In 1568, Nyzyn and the surrounding area passed into the possession of King Zygmunt August, and at the same time the city received city rights. The beloved court of King Zygmunt August, who reportedly planned to move the capital to Podlasie, was located in Nyzyn. Without realizing his plans, he died in Nyzyn in 1572, where his heart rests to this day. Janov used to be a town, now a settlement. City location obtained before 1715, demoted in 1897. On a national scale, the Janov commune is known for its unique two-warp weaving workshops. The carpets are performed on hand looms in the countryside weaving workshops. Janov fabrics are appreciated all over the world, including Japan. There is a nature reserve in the commune Starodrzewszyndzelski, which aims to protect characteristic pine spruce oak forest in this part of the forest. Sokolka was granted city rights in 1609. The royal city of the Grodno economy was situated at the end of the 18th century in the Grodno-Powiat-Trakai province in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Due to the fact that the city is inhabited by religionists Catholic, Orthodox and Islamic, apart from Poles, these are Belarusians and Lithuanians, and there are also residents in its vicinity Tatars. It gained the term, Polish capital of the Orient. There is a peat bog reserve in the commune nature, Kozlowy Lug. Boaniki. The biggest attraction is the wooden Tatar mosque. From the second half of the 19th century, the second family nest of Podlasie Tatars, the first Kruzinyani, and the Muslim cemetery from the 18th century. Recognized in 2012 as a monument to Polish history. The story of Bohonik is that in 1679, Captain Olejowski received these lands from King Sobieski as compensation for unpaid wages. And the romantic version is that, King he gave the estate to Tatar, who for his faithful service to him sighed. He was to receive as much land as he would have time to go around on horseback throughout the day. Czarna Białystok was granted city rights in 1962. Previously, Czarna Białystok was developing together with the neighboring Czarna Łazy Kościelna village. Then they formed one place called Black Village. There are 5 nature reserves on its territory: Forest, Dziedzictwo Góry, Budzisk, Karczmisko, partly Tabeli, Przemianka, and many monuments. Czarna Białostocka is a rich area preserved cultural heritage. She is real mainstay of folk artists representing disappearing professions. A center was established in the commune in Niemchin folk handicraft. The handicraft trail was also created peoples. The trail is a transfer to the times and the daily work of our ancestors. It is a great tour of forges and studios, crafts, pottery, carvings, and many others. The first traces of settlement in the commune come from Mesolithic period. The first written mention of earth Wasilkowska comes from 1358 when Siemowit III Kiestut Gediminowicz signed an agreement regarding borders of Mazovia and Lithuania. December 8, 1566, at the hands of Zygmunt August Wasilek received city rights. The city is on 3 sides from the west, north and east, surrounded by the Nizin Forest Landscape Park. Wasilko's monuments are The first mentions of this charming place come from the 13th century, and written documents from 1719, in which the chapel over the miraculous spring was consecrated, funded by Basily Lenchevsky as a token of gratitude for the miraculous recovery of eyesight. For years the faithful have come here in faith that through the sorrowful mother their prayers will reach God. The cult was also not interrupted by the turbulent history of these areas. The prohibitions of the partitioning powers, and the taking and handing over of the chapel to the Orthodox Church. In the 1950s, the sanctuary was revived. Currently, the sanctuary complex consists of a church, a grotto, a miraculous spring and chapels of the Paths of the Seven Sorrows of Our Lady. On the hill next to the church, votive crosses began to be erected. And today the Hill of Crosses is inscribed in the landscape. The treasury is forests, which cover 46% of the commune's area. There are 6 nature reserves on its territory. These are Barno in Borki Piestana Mountain, Mia Jersey, Old Debina, Old Beal, and partly the Warrenich Reserve. The area of the commune is also a place of numerous objects of cultural and archaeological value. From the wording of the name, it can be assumed that it comes from before the 13th century, from the time of the Yatvingians' stay in these lands. The Nizin forest is an extremely interesting natural object, and in terms of the diversity of environments, the number of species of animals and plants, it is not inferior to many well-known and valued natural objects. In Poland, it is a unique object, and it is determined by the specificity of the flora of the Nizin forest in relation to the rest of the country. It is caused by the climatic separateness of northeastern Poland. So there is a lot to be proud of, so far.